Okay, welcome everyone to the January 12th, 2021 Union County Public Schools Board of Education meeting. We are not going to open with an invocation. I heard from Reverend Vic Weaver this afternoon, and he was not going to be able to join us tonight. But I am sure that he and Carol are at home praying for our school district and praying over our meeting. That will bring us to the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now I need approval of the agenda.
I have two changes to the agenda. First, I would like to pull 5D off of the consent agenda to discuss. And it can go right after the consent agenda if that's okay with you. And then we'd like to add to the consent agenda the Canopy project settlement.
Any other changes from board members? Hearing none, I will accept a motion for the amended agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, that brings us to the John H. Crowder Service Award. Mrs. Sturdivant is not able to be with us tonight, and we do have Mr. Todd Price on the line. He called in. The late John H. Crowder spent more than 30 years serving the children of Union County. As a living tribute to him and his legacy, the Union County Board of Education awards the John H. Crowder Service Award every month to an outstanding high school student who is making a difference in their school and community. Students who receive this award are not only academically successful, but also have an established history of community service. Due to social distancing guidelines, we are sharing these awards virtually. The winners will be recognized through a special online tribute that will be posted on the UCPS website and social media pages. Tonight, we award the John H. Crowder Service Award for January to a senior at Union County Early College who found a way to fill in a gap at her school. Shelby Adams is a Girl Scout, and she is always looking for ways to serve her peers and her community. In 2019, through her Girl Scout Gold Award Service Project, Shelby created a breakfast food pantry at her school. The pantry is open for free and reduced meals, but still need assistance. Shelby connected with the school's Smile and Hope clubs, and together they worked to secure donations. In addition, she partnered with Food Lion in Indian Trail to provide a monthly donation. Through these projects, Union County Early College classrooms now have a variety of morning snacks for students each day. Shelby said that it took a while for students to learn about the snacks, but once they did, she saw how much it truly impacted their lives. Shelby will graduate with a high school diploma and an Associate of Arts degree from South Piedmont Community College. After high school, she plans to transfer to a 4-year university. Shelby plans to major in business administration and management and minor in either accounting or marketing, and eventually open her own coffee shop. Board members, please join me in congratulating this very special student, Shelby Adams, as our January 2021 recipient of the John H. Crowder Service Award. I sure do miss having our students here. Okay, so we did not have anyone sign up for public comments tonight, so we can move past that and proceed to approving the open session meeting minutes for December 1st and December 30th.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Very good. And that brings us to the amended consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and one of the changes, so that is approved. We pulled off grading practices, administrative guidelines. So let's discuss that now.
I pulled this off because part of the discussion at policy was that we needed a grading practices that would apply across the district. In the second bullet of the third paragraph, it says teachers within a grade, department, or school should establish and implement consistent grading practices. I would like to, and I'm going to put it out there, I would like to see grading practices be across schools. So high school, middle school, elementary, so that one teacher isn't doing something that another teacher is doing, or one high school is doing something different than another high school. So I would like this to go back to policy and see if we can work that out.
I don't object to that. I'm happy to have staff continue to work with our grading policy committee on this language to come back with greater clarity if that's what the board would like us to do. We can work with Dr. Breedlove and Ms. Morris and that team to provide greater clarification around the word of consistency. So I'm fine with that, Ms. Heintel.
Okay, we need to get it done like in the next month. So because schools.
I would like to do this as quickly as we can to come back to the next policy committee, which will happen this month.
Yep.
So that we can have it fast tracked for the February board meeting, if that's permissible.
That would be great.
I would just like to add that, you know, when we get emails from parents and students, I know that it has been a conversation in policy and with you, Dr. Houlihan, that there is supposed to be a 4-day window to get assignments in, so that, you know, especially our very, very young students, like second or third grade, whose parents are working, and maybe that student had trouble with internet while mom and dad were at work or on their Zoom calls, and they couldn't upload their assignment at 3 p.m. And so instead of a teacher, you know, giving a 0, it has always been our conversation and our understanding that there was supposed to be like a 4-day window. So that's the kind of language I would really like to see, so that
Great.
our children can have an opportunity to, ask mom and dad for help after work and on the weekends.
Absolutely. We also, and Ms. Morris can correct me if I'm wrong, we also have a late work policy already in place before the pandemic that was in place from day one. Is that a correct statement, Ms. Morris?
Our policy deals with when you're absent, turning in assignments, yeah.
So part of the intent for the administrative guidelines was also to address practices with regards to placing 0s as placeholders, or giving students 0s when you are allowed to give an extended window, so that you don't give the grade till the actual grade till the actual assignment is graded, if that makes sense.
Right, because I think what we had discussed, there are codes on Power School that can be entered that, you know, the assignment has been collected or it's being graded, and we would rather use those codes being used than a 0.
Correct. Understood. And so I agree. We'll be happy for staff to go back on this to
Thank you.
take the feedback and continue to work with the policy committee on any relative changes. But we would like to do that soon.
Quickly.
Absolutely, we can fast track that.
Thank you.
So are you going to recommend Ms. Heindel to table this tonight?
I would yes, I move that we table this and it goes back to policy.
I agree. Okay, that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year. We have officially, I think, made it to 2021, and it's really good to be back in school. I want to say a big thank you to our teachers tonight. You're a huge reason why we're able to move forward and continue with high-quality teaching and learning. We want to say that we appreciate you being in schools and keeping to help our schools safe, and thank you for all that you do to educate our children. I also want to say a big shout out to our staff, administrators, students, and staff, and the board for pivoting last week to Plan C. That really allowed our school nurses to have the chance to work with our lead nurse supervisors and our health department on the COVID reports in the last few weeks. And I want to say thank you to our school nurses for their due diligence and effort and hard work last week, because it certainly has paid off. One of the things that we have had tremendous success with in Union County Public Schools for the last several years in our 6 focus schools is a daily intensive tutoring effort for 4th grade, 7th grade, and expanded to Math 1. We have really done a hard set of reflections from the first semester. As you may have seen across the nation and the state, many of our students continue to struggle with catching up as a result of the pandemic. And we are continuing to see research around learning loss, particularly with math. And so tonight, I would like to say that we are very much interested in expanding this tutoring model for virtual tutoring across as many schools as we can, but we need the public's help. So I wanted to kind of give an all call to Union County. If you are interested in becoming a tutor, we have training in place that can be done virtual. We have a partnership with Union County Public Library that is willing to help partner with us, as well as Huntington. And if you're interested in that, we would encourage you to apply. Visit the UCPS website and our human resources page. And we're going to see more information posted this week about it, as well as information on our social media pages this week. So thank you to our team. And this is something we believe second semester would be a huge benefit for our students. It's hard to believe that we are getting closer and closer to high school and kindergarten registration. As many of you know, I'm the parent of an 8th grader, and like many of our other families, we're getting ready to prepare for high school. Our middle and high schools are working together to make sure our students and parents have all the information they need for a successful transition. If you haven't already, I encourage you to visit the high school options page on our website. This includes key dates, parent sessions, career and technical education information, and more. And it's almost time for kindergarten registration. February 1st, we'll kick off that process. We have updated our process, and parents will register students through Scribbles, our online portal, and please expect to see more information soon. And finally, congratulations to Union County Public Schools athletics. We are in the playoffs. We are very, very proud of our teams. In volleyball, congratulations to Sun Valley, Weddington, and Marvin Ridge, who all play tonight. And for cross country, congratulations to Cata, Cuthbertson, Marvin Ridge, Weddington, and Porter Ridge. These teams compete on Saturday. So congratulations to our student athletes and job well done. Board members, this concludes my report. Thank you.
I have a quick question. With respect to the math tutoring effort, do we have any data that shows the?
So we're working currently to finalize all of our numbers from first semester in terms of specifically EOCs, that, and particularly Math 1, because those students just completed those exams in the fall. We plan to bring that information to the curriculum committee at the next agenda, because we're still finalizing through the state. Some of the data has still not come in yet. And so like English 2, I believe there's going to be a lag. But as soon as we have that data, we want to share that with the board.
Thank you. The other thing is we have tutors. Peer tutoring would be a great thing to help out with this effort. with math. We have a lot of high school students who need volunteer hours, and it would be great if we could use them. Everybody has a laptop, and you can do it through Zoom and other things. It would be great to use our students.
Yeah, I agree. I actually shared that discussion with our student advisory council that met with me back in the fall twice. They're on board with that idea too, from leadership within schools. That subject will be coming up with middle school and high school principals this month to talk about how to try to get some of that off the ground. Because I agree, I do think that we have students in our schools that would be well equipped and positioned to do that, even in a virtual setting. So thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the reopen update from our cabinet staff members. Do you want to kick it off?
Yes, ma'am. I'll start. So good evening, board. Again, tonight we are pleased to give you a very high-level overview of kind of the status of the district, what we've learned from the fall, trying to do school a little bit differently, trying to operate buildings a little bit differently, and want to share with you some lessons that we've learned and anything to look forward to for the current semester. We've done a lot of reflection over the past month, and a lot of this at the beginning will be very clear reminders for the board and maybe some recapturing of moments for the public. So as a reminder, when we started school on August the 17th, all of our students, staff, and families, I can't tell you how proud I am of the way that they have pivoted. They've been flexible, really trying to adjust to the new way that we're doing school. We were the largest system in the state to open schools with both in-person and virtual options. And one of the aspects that others learned from us, continue to learn from us, we had many representatives from several neighboring districts visit our schools, talk with staff about how to implement our procedures for in-person learning, how we're doing virtual. And I think that's a really big kudos to our team for continuing to lead the way on all things academic amongst the Big 12 districts in the state of North Carolina. From an academic standpoint, there are many more academic accomplishments than I could probably list on this PowerPoint, but we wanted to highlight a few. One of the things that we are very proud of is the school system's ability to offer both in-person learning and a virtual program for almost 8,000 students. If you remember, on August 17th, we started with 1 day a week. We then shifted, per the governor's executive order, to allow a transition in October to Plan A and Plan B, which allowed for 4 days of in-person learning for elementary and 2 days for middle and high. And again, having a short amount of time to plan and deliver multiple models of delivery of instruction, both in-person and virtual, that was a huge, huge accomplishment by our staff, our school leaders, and our teachers. We also transitioned to one learning management system, which is Canvas. We still have teachers that have the flexibility to use other products such as Zoom and Google Meet and others. But from a learning management system, this was an expansion on our part. We had staff members that did a lot of professional development. I want to say a big, big shout out to Casey Rimmer, who did an outstanding job training teachers. You can see the numbers on the screen, training teachers on remote learning best practices and on the hundreds of hours of modules that she created on her own to provide technical support for staff. We had nearly 90% of our third graders that completed the beginning of grade 3 testing. As you might remember, the state made a requirement that all high school students test in person in December. If you had an EOC or a CTE final exam, we had almost 94% of our students who took advantage of that, who came in a safe environment. Students who did not have the ability to do that in December still have through the month of January to do so. So we expect that number to go up. We were the first school system in our area to host SAT and ACT testing. And we also, if you'll remember, created a centralized virtual program for our dual language immersion students. We also implemented a series of virtual college readiness and parent webinar series. We continue to focus on Wayfind, which is a great partnership with Wingate University. That has not stopped. We have continued to recruit and work with students on the selection process. And we've provided a series of online resources for electives, drama, chorus, related arts, etc., so that we can continue to offer remote instruction for those students who are virtual. So what can you expect next from an academic standpoint? We are going to be conducting a lot of virtual events second semester. Spelling bee. We're still trying to figure out books and brackets and how that will look. Probably don't expect to have kids in a large assembly at Wingate University. That's not going to happen. But we're trying to be creative. Poetry out loud. We are creating a new 9th grade planning course sheet for our current 8th graders to get a preview for how to look at registration for high school. And as I mentioned, we'll continue to focus on our virtual options for parent sessions for 8th grade presentations, our CTE Expo, etc. Several lessons we've learned. One, with attendance, we really need to be very clear on our expectations and our processes for attendance. We really still need to work a lot on Canvas consistency. That is some feedback we've heard from parents and teachers. We need to take a pretty big look at reducing gaps and virtual instruction practices. Back in the fall, we missed some deadlines for getting all of our staff trained on Microsoft Teams. So that will continue to be a focus. And we also are considering trying to determine how to offer a K-12 virtual school or a 6-12 virtual school, if that is still something that is desired by our stakeholders after this year. And that would be something that in future board meetings, we would come back to this board for approval if we decide that we want to go in that direction. So in closing, very, very proud of our academics team, of our teachers, of our staff, of our students and our parents. The fall semester was a lot different than ever before when it comes to teaching and learning. And I'm very, very proud of the work that has been done. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McGraw, who will talk a little bit about health, safety, and social emotional learning accomplishments.
Thank you, Dr. Houlihan. Good evening, board members. Tonight, I get the pleasure of talking about some of our health and safety accomplishments during this time. I think the first thing I want to talk about is something that I have communicated to you and the public many times. We have added a nurse in every school. We have 53 school nurses, and that's one of the most advantageous things we've done. Those nurses are managing student cases that are reported, staff members that report cases at the school. They've done an excellent job of managing at the school level, working with Ms. Nilsson and Ms. Krakowski, the 2 nurse supervisors. We've also implemented COVID health and safety procedures at all schools and in all departments. So what does that mean? That means that the guidance we have been given by the state of North Carolina, the Lighting Our Way Forward document that was given to us at the beginning of the pandemic, and the Strong Schools North Carolina Public Health Toolkit for K through 12 schools. We've been following that guidance since the beginning of the pandemic. It contains guidance from CDC. It contains guidance from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. It also has DPI guidance and the State Board of Education guidance in those documents. We've also established a COVID helpline for our employees. The COVID helpline has answered or assisted 1,690 employees with COVID-related questions. 1,690 employees have been assisted. It's amazing what our helpline nurse has done. That is a 54th nurse that we have added. That gives us the ability to answer questions proactively. I will tell you, our nurse supervisors do have to assist at times due to the call volume, and they've done an excellent job of managing that. During the first semester, our nurses addressed 411 impactful cases positive COVID cases involving staff and students. What does impactful mean? That means the student or staff member actually occupied our building during an infectious period when they could have passed it on to someone else. So that's 411 impactful cases. During the week of January the 4th through the 8th, our nurses dealt with every positive case that was reported to us by a student or staff member. We were able to come back on January the 11th with a good foundation, and our nurses start working proactively with cases that were reported as of January the 11th. We've also provided personal protective equipment and supplies to all schools and all departments. That consists of face coverings, plexiglass shields, signage, and different personal protective equipment. That personal protective equipment provides safety for our staff members. We've also partnered with the Union County Public Health Department to identify COVID-related issues with students and staff. Without our partnership with public health, it would have been difficult. Mr. Joyner, Michelle McGrath, we meet with them daily and multiple times a week to review all the COVID-related issues. Social and emotional learning. We've done a lot of good work while our students have been in the building and have been virtual. We have continued our partnership with the Department of Health, Department of Human Services in Union County. The collaborative, both virtual and in-person support has been provided for our students. Our attendance counselors are continuing to locate students who were not engaged in school. They've done an excellent job. School social workers, they're meeting with students individually and in groups, providing access to community resources and working with families to eliminate barriers. Ms. Walker, our lead social worker, has done an excellent job working with our school social workers and our collaborative partnership. Our school-based therapists, our mental health therapists have also continued to provide in-person and virtual sessions. So what are our next steps? Let's talk about the vaccine. That's what a lot of people in the community are interested in hearing about. We have been working with the health department on a time frame for the vaccines. We don't have the dates yet, but they should be coming very soon. We talked to them today, and as soon as we have those dates, we'll get those to the board, we'll get those to our employees. We have provided all employees' names and email addresses to the health department, so we're ready as soon as the vaccine's offered. Our school nurses were included in Group 1A, so they've already been offered the vaccine if they chose to take the vaccine. The next group will be 1B. Group 1 is residents age 75 and older. Group 2 will include UCPS employees 50 years of age and older. We're working closely right now with the health department to identify those employees. So as soon as the dates are available, we will be ready to respond. Our school nurses are going to be working with public health to assist with vaccinating our employees. Group 3 will be all other employees. So all UCPS employees are included in Group 1B, but it's divided into 3 sections. Group 1 was our nurses. Group 2 is going to be those employees 50 years of age and older. And then Group 3 will be the rest of the UCPS employees and staff members. The vaccine right now, we're getting as a county about 975 doses or vaccines a week. So Mr. Joyner has talked to us. He's going to be committed to working with the school system to get as many of our employees vaccinated as he can. And I appreciate Mr. Joyner working with us on that. So we're going to continue to work with Union County government and UCPS communications to share that information with our employees about the vaccine availability and distribution. So what lessons have we learned since we've been in this phase? First of all, having a nurse in every school has provided the needed support to deal with this COVID pandemic. Without our nurses, it would have been almost impossible to do this. Wendy Nilsson, Christine Skrakowski, and 54 nurses have done an excellent job of working with our schools on health and safety procedures related to the COVID pandemic. Thank you for what they've done. The UCPS COVID helpline has provided employees with the resource needed to ask COVID-related questions and report employee-related issues. Our nurse that staffs that helpline, she works endlessly to make sure our employees are supported. When dealing with COVID, we can't get complacent. We all know that from everyday life, but the schools, we cannot get complacent. COVID health and safety guidelines, we have to follow those all the time, every minute of the day. Wearing face coverings, socially distancing when possible, washing hands or sanitizing hands. We have to follow those 3 W's. We also must follow the guidance given to us in that Lighting Our Way Forward document and the Strong Schools NC Public Health Toolkit. The next thing, the partnership with Union County Public Health has helped us with guidance in dealing with the COVID pandemic. Without a strong partnership with Union County Public Health, this would have been difficult. And social and emotional and mental health support for students are essential, whether we're in Plan A, Plan B, or Plan D. They're essential. Mr. Strickland is going to be covering the operations section.
Jared, before you leave us, could I ask a couple questions specifically about your dialogue and interaction with the health department?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned our nurses vaccinated, and I know I had an occasion last Friday to speak with my son's school nurse. Do you know if all 54 have received the first round of vaccinations, or how many?
All 54 of our nurses were offered the vaccination. If they decided to take the vaccination, they have been vaccinated as of the 7th, 8th, and 9th of January. Yeah, all of them that were offered the vaccination, all of them were offered the vaccination,
Right.
but not all selected to take it.
Do you know approximately how many didn't, and I'm sure they had very good reasons, but because it's not mandatory.
I believe it's 38 nurses took the vaccine.
Okay.
Okay.
When we get to the opportunity, which I hope soon, where Group 2 will open up, which will include our educators, how do you envision that happening? Will our school nurses be administering the vaccine, or will the eligible employees report down to Atrium to receive the vaccine, or both? Or how do you envision that being implemented?
The way right now, Mr. Sides, it's going to work is our employees will sign up to get the vaccine. They'll go to the health department. Our school nurses will work with the health department to administer the vaccine at the health department. The vaccine is delicate to deal with, so they need to house it at the health department. That's the reason. We talked to them about coming to a school,
Right.
but the vaccine is delicate. So they feel like they can vaccinate UCPS employees at the health department on designated days, but we've not been given the days yet, but it's coming soon.
Okay.
I'll give it to you as soon as we get it. We've been talking to Mr. Joyner today, and he asked that our school nurses assist them with vaccinating our employees.
Now, the 975, I believe it was, doses you said they get per week. I know it's a 2-round process. Are both doses the same, or is there a different composition for the booster?
They're the same, right?
No, I mean, is it the same vaccine for the first and the booster? So basically this 975, you're actually being able to treat half that number of people. because there's the first shot and a booster, but are they the same vaccine?
Public Health has been given two vaccines. That they have Moderna and Pfizer. So if you received Pfizer on your first dose, the date that when I received the vaccine, I had an appointment when I left to get my second shot. So I will get Pfizer the next time.
Right, but is it the same thing as the first shot? Same composition?
You mean the genetic makeup of the vaccine?
Yeah, is it just getting the same vaccine twice, or is it a different composition?
No, you're getting the vaccine twice.
Okay, the same thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so we're not actually able to treat 975 people with all those doses each week because there are 2 rounds, correct?
That is correct. So Mr. Joyner said that 975 doses of the vaccine are hopefully received per week. When I say hopefully, that's what they expect to receive each week, but as long as it's available. So the people who are getting their second round could be in that group, but what we talked to him about was committing 975 doses of the vaccine to UCPS employees who are in that group too.
I need some clarification. I thought I heard you say that the county is only receiving 975 vaccines per week. But I think I just heard you say that you asked him to set aside that just for Union County Public Schools. So I need some clarification.
Ms. Mayor, we discussed with him 975 doses coming to us to vaccinate our employees. And we're going to continue having conversations with him, but that's what the plan is. When we get ready to vaccinate group 2, is the 975 doses would be used to vaccinate UCPS employees.
Okay, so the county is not receiving 900 doses per week.
Yes.
They're receiving significantly more than that, but that is what
No, ma'am.
they have set aside for Union County Public Schools.
That's what they plan to set aside for us in that group 2. They only receive about 975 doses per week. To vaccinate our group 2, they are going to set aside those 975 doses to vaccinate our employees.
Even though we have approximately 5,000 employees.
But group 2 is age 50
Uh-huh.
and above. Yes.
Okay.
So, we give them all the names who could potentially get the vaccine. I'm sure not all employees will get the vaccine, but there has been a lot of people age 75 and older get the vaccine. It is going well. The vaccinations are.
Okay, so in your daily communication with Mr. Joyner and County Michelle Lancaster, I know there have been times, especially over Christmas, where you and your staff were meeting with them twice a week. And in daily communication, probably a few times each day, in addition to all of your meetings. At any point, has the health department advised you so that you could recommend to the rest of cabinet staff and the superintendent to bring to the board that Union County Public Schools needs to move to Plan B or Plan C?
No, ma'am. They provide public health guidance, but the ultimate decision for the plan that we're in is the decision of UCPS.
So my question was, have they ever provided advidance based on county data that Union County Public Schools needed to change course?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add to that? Have they ever provided any recommended procedures or policies or anything like that we have lately in your latest interactions with them that we are not abiding by?
No, sir. he always recommends we follow the guidance in the North Carolina Lighting Our Way Forward, the North Carolina Safe Schools Toolkit. Those are the documents we are to follow. The only guidance that he has given us was it was the right thing to do January 4th to the 8th for us to give our nurses time to deal with positive cases and close contacts, so we're prepared to return January the 11th. That's the guidance that we discussed. It was the right thing to do.
And I just want to be clear for everyone here or for anyone watching at home that when our cabinet staff is having these conversations with the Department of Health and the county and looking at the numbers for our county, and with all of the knowledge that they have through contact tracing, if they set the alarm off with you that there is a problem, then you would bring that recommendation to the superintendent, and then the superintendent would notify the board so that the board could make a decision, correct?
I would. I provide Dr. Houlihan and ultimately the board any information that comes from public health and the public health director.
So what kind of feedback on our schools have you received as far as our operations? What kind of feedback has the Department of Health given you?
Mr. Joyner and I, we meet a lot with Wendy and Michelle McGrath, who handles their communicable disease. They provide feedback that we have done a great job health and safety wise while our schools are open.
Okay.
We followed the procedures closely. Having a nurse in each school managing COVID cases is a must. They realize that this has been a very busy time and challenging time for us, but they feel like we have done a great job with our schools being open, following the COVID health and safety guidance.
In all of your meetings, thank you for saying that on the record, because I know you have shared that with me and Mrs. Heintel many times. You've relayed that message from them to us, so I appreciate you sharing that tonight. Has there ever been a time when in all of your meetings and conversations with the county and the health department, have they ever indicated through all their contact tracing that Union County Public Schools contributes to the community spread? That we are a problem and that we are, involved in the community spread, or have they offered other indicators?
No, they've never offered any guidance or anything that says that because UCPS schools are open, it contributes to spread within our communities. Of course, the community does impact our schools, but because we have stringent health and safety guidelines in our schools have done a great job because of our nurses. They're managing the cases within our schools. But does that answer your question?
It does, and from my memory, I think it has also been shared that our schools are in many times a safe zone, and it's when we're not in school that is contributing to community spread, like sleepovers, birthday parties, religious ceremonies, weddings, funerals. If my memory is correct, that's the feedback we have received, is that our schools are pretty much a safe zone because we are diligently, our administrators, our staff, our nurses, everyone is being so diligent on the 3 W's and following the toolkit that it has also been spoken that we're better off in school than when the kids are not in school, because that is when activities are occurring and we let our guard down.
Yeah, we have control measures in schools. The 3 W's are the biggest thing. But I want to remind the public, what you do outside of school does also impact our school students
Yeah.
and staff. If students and staff are symptomatic, if they've tested, if they're positive, they need to stay home and not come to school. And we hope we have the measures in place for that. But we do have great controls within our schools.
Thank you, Mrs. Heintel.
I would like to add on to this discussion that today, Governor Cooper had a press conference at 3:30, and he cited a recent Duke UNC study on COVID-19 transmission in schools as a reason he's not changed the school reopening guidelines that allow Plan A in elementary school and Plan B in grades 6 through 12.
And just 2 weeks ago, Dr. Fauci did an interview with CNN. And for anyone who would like to see that video, Mrs. Heintel has posted that on her Board of Education site. So just 2 weeks ago, Dr. Fauci went on record that we need to do everything possible for our students to be in school and follow the safety guidelines that you have mentioned, the toolkit. And I just want everyone here and at home to know that the 2 documents that Mr. McCraw is referring to is posted on our website for anyone that wants to see the guidelines from the State Department of Health, the CDC, the State Board of Education, all of these organizations providing impact on how to safely operate our schools. Everything's on the website.
I have one question. Is the county receiving the second vaccine from Moderna currently?
The vaccines they've received recently were from Pfizer.
Pfizer.
Yeah. So
There's the potential for
you could
more
get
coming.
Moderna or Pfizer, but the vaccine they've received recently was the Pfizer vaccine.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Benchin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned several times in the conversation our nurses. Are our nurses feeling as though that they have all that they need to continue the successful monitoring during this time? Is there anything that our nurses feel as though that they don't have or that they need? I was really interested in that because you've mentioned them and the heroic work that they're doing, but I just want to make sure that they're fully equipped with all the mechanisms to keep this successful role going.
Our nurses have done an amazing job, Reverend Benchin, and I'm not sure there's enough hours in the day or enough praise I can give Wendy and Christine and their team, but we're getting them everything they need. If Wendy and Christine tell us they need it, just like today, we met with Shauna, any kind of needs we have, we'll make it happen. And I believe, unless Wendy were to tell me differently, they're getting everything they need. Now, this week, every Monday's busy. They're dealing with cases, but if they need it and they come to me, I'm going to do everything I can to get it for them. And I'll work with Shauna and Dr. Houlihan, and we'll make it happen.
Thank you. Thank
We
you,
need-
Madam Chair.
On top of that, we need parents and students to do the right things. If they've tested and waiting on result, they need to stay home. They need to stay home if they have symptoms. We need people to follow the rules that we've put in place so that we can do a good job and our staff can and our nurses can do a good job. It's important that everybody does that.
So my last question would probably be better answered either you or Dr. Houlihan. We have received a lot of emails from our elementary schools over the past couple of days. All 30 elementary schools are currently on Plan A, while the state guidelines restrict our middle and high schools to operate on Plan B. So the requests that we have gotten within like the last 24 hours, how would you explain, do you recommend that we move our 30 elementaries from Plan A to Plan B or Plan C, and why?
I'll start. That is currently not a recommendation. The reason for that is multi, but number one, it begins back with the consultation with the health department on their advisement, which they have not given us that recommendation or advisement. Number two, when we made decisions in the fall to give parents a choice for Plan D or Plan A or Plan D or Plan B, we did that so that we had enough time to look at appropriate staffing levels and allotments. And moving individuals back would cause a severe hardship, we believe, on staff and on our principals, specifically with master scheduling and how to staff new ways of doing school. As a reminder, this board has made a very conscious, deliberate decision with transitions and moving the school system in one direction or not. You've given the appropriate time for staff to react and prepare and plan adequately for successful implementation. So for all of those reasons, we do not have that recommendation or that concern right now.
I'd just like to add too that the governor's guidelines allow elementary schools for 5 days of in-class attendance. And we actually step back from that and only do 4 days so that we can do an extra deep clean. So actually we are adding additional step of precaution in our option A.
But again, one of our biggest challenges is because of our state allotments with teachers. We needed to know in the fall from our parents who wanted to be on Plan A, who wanted to be on Plan D, so that we could allot those teachers accordingly. And it took time to do that.
That
And
is
so,
correct. Yes, ma'am.
okay, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that clearly. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McCraw.
Good evening. Thank you all for this opportunity to share our successes and lessons learned. I have a few key important things I want to share with you about the programs and operations. I'll be brief, but I'd like to also mention that, being a part of Team UCPS is what's made this all work. It's taken everybody that you see here and all the ones that you don't see. Everybody has pulled together since last March to make this a successful first semester for us. So don't just think that the things you're hearing about tonight are the only things that have made us successful. It's literally been everybody almost every day. So I'm going to talk about the operations programs that I have and just give you some short.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
could you make sure that your mic is on?
It is on now. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Miss
That's
Merrill.
okay. That's okay.
Okay, so just briefly, thank you all for the opportunity to share with you tonight. It's important that we do get to share our stories about the things that we have done. And I would be remiss if I didn't say again for the second time with the mic on, how important it has been for all of our employees to be a part of this. It's not just the people you see here, it's everybody with Team UCPS that has contributed. So it's been a great first semester, and we're looking forward to an even better second semester. I'm going to talk about the after-school program. As you all know, we had to shut the program down last year. We opened it up yesterday. We were at 25 sites, and we reduced that to 19. I sent out some information last Friday where our current enrollment was a little higher than it is as of today. We've lost some students, but that's okay. We have a lot of people on the waiting list. We've also had the opportunity to rehire 49 people in that program. So that's been beneficial as well. Transportation, has been providing service to our students since August 17th. We're at 263 or so buses. We just about got all hands on deck with running double routes, and just about anybody that can drive has been called into service. Transportation, as with all of our efforts in the school system, has also been hit by COVID as well. But we're doing okay. We don't have as many calls this year as far as complaints. So I think we're doing a good job considering everything. Our ridership since we went back to school with the elementaries 4 days a week has gone up. We don't have numbers on that because normally in October, we do a count that we provide to DPI. This year, DPI did not require us to do that count, but I can tell you that those elementary school riders did come back. So we're transporting a lot of kids. With facilities, we've had great success with PPE, as Jared mentioned. And some of these things, all groups have done a great job on. We've gotten PPE. I remember Dr. Houlihan told us early on to be looking at masks and gloves. We did that. We've got electrostatic sprayers that we use to spray our school buildings. They help us to be more efficient. Our custodians have been retrained. We've installed a lot of signage and plexiglass at our schools to help with the health and safety of our workers at the schools. And we changed the hours for our custodians. We have them doing more work during the school day, high-touch cleaning and stuff like that, so that we get more stuff done during the day. We aren't getting as many things done at night, but it's more important to have that visibility and the cleaning take place during the day. School nutrition really needs to be a champion. Since all of this started, and I've got some data there, I won't go over the numbers, but they have served thousands and thousands of meals. They have literally been at this since last March nonstop. They've done a great job implementing the COVID and the PPE requirements. We did a lot of feeding last fall when we were out of school for McKinney-Vento students, and we worked with a lot of churches and community groups to provide meals. They've done an outstanding job. Even now we have curbside sites where we're feeding people on a daily basis. Athletics, Dr. Houlihan talked a little bit about how we're in the playoffs. We're one of the few districts that have gone all in with athletics. Of course, we always do because we're so good in athletics here. Our high schools have been practicing since July in some fashion or form. Our athletic director, Nelson Garner, helped us implement some very rigorous guidelines on practices, and it's proved to be successful. We are playing volleyball, cross country, we're swimming, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, and cheerleading at the high school level, and we just started basketball and cheer tonight at the middle school level. We are successful because our people are following the guidelines. They're doing the things, following the protocols that have been laid out for them. So before I talk about the lessons learned, I want to mention a couple of other quick things. Early on, we put together what we call the START team. It's a corny acronym for strategic timing and return to school, return team. And so it started off as an effort based mostly in facilities to talk about cleaning protocols and how we get buildings open and how we operate them. It quickly grew over the months and months to include many, many other groups. We had principals on the group. We had our nurse supervisors. We had all kinds of people to help us talk about what we needed to do to get schools back open. It was a great team effort. We met for many months, and we put in place many of the protocols that we are still continuing to use today. Jared mentioned earlier the two documents, the Lighting the Way Forward document and the toolkit. Our START team recognized very, very quickly those two documents were not about instruction. They were about operations of schools. They were about health and safety guidelines. They were about things that we needed to do to get schools open. Now, we butted head many times with the principals that were on our start team, but we followed those guidelines, and by following those, I really think we've been successful. I'll throw in too that in the many months that I have been going into the office since March, I know that the finance team has been there the entire time. That's important because people got paid and contractors got bills processed. So they were there as much as anyone in the building all the time. The last thing I think I'd like to point out, last two things, we learned early on that we had to see the big picture. So the details had to be worked out, but we had to grasp the big picture to start with just to see where we were going. Because like everybody else, this was all new and we didn't know where we were going. But the team that we put together really did an exceptional job of helping us be successful. And then the last thing I would share, and Jared mentioned this too, I don't think we made a single decision without the guidance input from our nurse supervisors, Wendy and Christine. They were in all of the meetings. Many times they were the Debbie Downers, telling us what we could and couldn't do. But they were so valuable in helping us as we move forward. And I can promise you, being in all of those start meetings, we always looked to them to make sure that the things that we were doing and contemplating were going to be okay and that they were okay with it. So I know Jared talked about them some, but I would like to give them a shout out too because they did an exceptional job in helping us move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland.
Mark, before you leave, could I ask you a couple quick questions? When does this supposed spring sports, football, well, not spring, but football, baseball, when do you remember when those seasons start?
Generally speaking, February and March.
Will it be a shortened schedule, I assume?
Somewhat shortened, yes.
What is the, could you go over the current protocols for visitors of our sporting events, indoors, like your volleyball, basketball, and anticipated for outdoors like football, lacrosse, baseball, etc.?
So briefly, for indoor activities such as volleyball and basketball, we're limited to 25 spectators. Obviously, you can have the teams in there, and then we have set a limit of 15 auxiliary staff, scorekeepers, ball cleaners, officials, administrative people like that. So we limit ourselves to 25 spectators. That's what the guidelines require. So those on the indoor sports. We just had a conversation today, and we'll meet with the athletic directors next week to talk about the outdoor sports. In our football stadiums, we'll be limited to 100 spectators. So we're working through now how we will share tickets. We are doing contactless tickets. So people go online and sign up for their tickets and pay. So we've eliminated, for the most part, that exchange of cash at the gates. But we'll have a meeting next week on football and see where that goes.
Are you going to give parents of the athletes first priority at tickets? Is any special consideration going to be given to them of that 100 or?
That's what
25?
we're doing with the indoor sports right now, and it's likely we'll have that consideration as well for the outdoor.
So when you refer to the 25 indoor and the 100 outdoor, those are not Union County Public School guidelines. That came from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association.
It's either the association or the toolkit or lighting the way forward document. But no, those are not ours. Those are state
Okay.
mandated.
Okay. I just want to verify that that is not something we came up with.
Correct.
It came from the state level.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, board members, now that we have heard from Mr. McGraw and Mr. Strickland, do you have, any questions of our cabinet staff, given, the recommendations and where we are?
Madam Chair, one quick question for Mr. Strickland. That is, that bus count, is that a tedious thing to put together?
It takes some time. I mean,
Okay.
it's ridership over a week. And again, the state did not ask us to do it this year. And we just, nobody in the state did it. But
Okay.
we do know that our ridership at the elementary level did go up.
Thank you so much. Before you leave, so what happens to my addiction for athletics? Folks know I love to go to the games. What I got to do?
So, Mr. Bench and I have the perfect opportunity for you to solve that problem. So, at the high school level, we stream all of our athletic events in the gymnasiums and at the football stadiums. So, right now, tonight, I was watching a volleyball game and a basketball game just to see how things were going. So, you can sign up, go to a school's website, and you can sign up for our streaming service where we have the automated cameras at all of the schools and the gymnasiums, and watch as many games as you would like.
You ain't helped me. You ain't helped me.
I know we,
Madam Chair, it's Todd.
yes, Todd Price.
Yes, I would just like to ask, I'm going to direct this to Dr. Houlihan, and he can redirect if he feels the need. But over the past week or so, we have had many, I'm speaking for myself, emails and phone calls from staff members that are not feeling safe or not feeling the love from central office. What would be his guidance or recommendation if he had a staff member that did not feel comfortable coming to work and has maybe already gone through HR and has gotten turned down and they have no option either to come to work or don't get paid? We've heard a lot tonight about keeping our kids safe. I didn't hear a whole lot about keeping our staff safe. So if you would just touch on that, please.
Sure. I'll mention a couple of things. Number one, I will acknowledge the concerns presented by our staff members. We want to recognize that, just like we heard back in August, that there are some concerns out there, and our job is to help to alleviate those concerns and to work with them on a case-by-case basis. My advice would be, even if you made a request for HR for an accommodation doesn't always mean that you work from home. There are other levels of accommodations we can provide. So my request would be that they submit that request in writing to our HR system. Again, we do another review for the second semester based on documentation that is presented, as well as staffing levels. And our HR team has done a very good job in the fall semester working with individual employees on such accommodations, and we will be glad to work with them moving forward. Dr. Harris has been extremely responsive to our staff. There was a conference call last night with members of UCAE, teachers, and others that expressed some concern and also expressed joy that they're glad to be back in the classroom and glad to have students back. Mr. McGraw and Dr. Harris attended that phone call and represented our administrative team. We also are working with our Professional Advisory Council, which is our group of teachers that meets with me to gather feedback on a regular basis and to alleviate and to address any concerns. So we do acknowledge the concerns. Based on our conversations with public health, we believe that we are doing absolutely all we can in our best job to keep not just students safe, but also staff members safe. I'll finally say that the research study that Ms. Heintel mentioned today, part of that study indicated no evidence of any transmission of COVID-19 in that study from students to adults. And that is a huge aspect of that study, and is another reason why we feel that it is as safe to have school for adults and students as long as you are following the protocols and the guidelines. So Mr. Price, I hope that answers your questions. I certainly can have Mr. McGraw or Dr. Harris further elaborate if needed.
That touched on many of the subjects, but one further, the administration of the vaccine, I think it looks like it's going to be based on an age base. criteria solely. What if we had a younger teacher or administrator or a staff member that maybe had some underlying conditions? Is there a way that they could maybe get moved up or maybe to that 1B category to get the vaccine quicker?
Mr. Price, this is Jared McCraw, sir. I think currently it's by age. Group 1 is 75 and older. In Group 1B, the first group is 75 and older. The second group is 50 years of age and older. The third group will be all other UCPS employees. It's not classified by any pre-existing conditions at this time.
Is that something that we came up with, or is that something the health department came up with?
That's not something the health department come up with. That's guidance that comes down from the federal government and the state government.
That was a federal timeline, I believe. Any other questions, Mr. Price?
No, Madam Chair, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. So one of the common questions that I've had come up a handful of times is an employee's concern that if they are waiting on a test result or if they test positive, that they have to use their personal or annual leave. And so I just wanted to address that tonight as well, because employees should always let their supervisor and the hotline know that, you know, if they have symptoms or if they are waiting for a test result, and you cannot be pressured or feel pressured to come in because of pay. Please contact Human Resources and work with our benefits department, because if an employee does test positive, it is my understanding that that there is a contagious disease act that the benefits department would help walk an employee through to get paid and hopefully not have to use any of their personal or annual leave. And I'll just ask Dr. Harris if you would like to come and clarify anything I just said or if I misspoke.
And before Dr. Harris goes, I will also say that our human resources team did address this by an email for all employees, I believe yesterday or Friday, to communicate exactly what those processes are and what the pay options and leave options are. So Dr. Harris, if you want to elaborate, please.
You said it perfectly. We did send out an email earlier this week that explained what the procedure was with regards to taking off or leave options. You can also visit our website, and that would explain it at that point as well.
So I know that came up a lot last semester, and I know I've had to repeat it several times, and so that's why staff, try to get it out again for this semester, just to remind all of our employees that, if you have symptoms, if you're waiting on a test, or if you test positive, we do not want you fretting or worrying about having, to use up your personal leave if you can work with the benefits department to have that covered.
That is correct. Testing positive or quarantine, just call our department. We can absolutely help you with that.
Okay. How recently so you did mention that you had you've met with our teacher, I forget what you call that group. There's one teacher from all 53 schools that you meet with. How recently have you met with them?
The last time we met together as a group, I believe, was before the winter break. I don't remember the date. I know that Dr. Harris has had conversations with leadership members of that group. I don't remember when our next scheduled call is, but we did work with them over the break as well on a case-by-case basis. But I have not met with them this month, if that's part of the question.
Okay. And when So we have received a lot of emails in the last 24 hours, with teachers being very afraid to go back into the classroom, specifically in our 30 elementary schools. We've gotten a lot of emails from elementary teachers. And one in particular, I know that Mr. Price just said that, there were some pretty hard feelings towards cabinet staff. And I'll just go on the record. I know that there are a lot of hard feelings towards our board. They blame our board. But, my hope is that everyone can walk away from this meeting tonight that we're doing exactly what Dr. Fauci said 2 weeks ago. We are doing everything above and beyond with all of our nurses in every school, our nurse supervisors, the PPE, the training. We are doing everything, like Dr. Fauci said, in our power for our kids to not be a year behind in their education and to have opportunities beyond 12th grade, through sports and other activities. I feel very comfortable with the information that the Department of Health has given to Mr. McCraw, and then Mr. McCraw has relayed to the superintendent. And I hope that we've addressed as many questions as possible tonight so that there's not a lot of unnecessary fear. To be afraid to be in the classroom, because for as many emails as we've gotten in the last 24 hours, I will say that we've probably gotten 4 times more, for people that want us to do a full reopen, open 5 days a week. So, the board is being pulled in a lot of different directions. And the board is here to verify that we're following the state guidelines. We're listening to the health department. We're listening to our cabinet staff. We're listening to our employees. And I do want to assure everyone, we are reading your emails. We do hear you. And I want to remind all of the authors of these emails that the board and this cabinet, we're human too. We are not immune to this virus. We have not been immune to this virus. We are afraid too, but we are here because we have confidence in what our nurses and our staff is doing. And we have confidence that we're doing everything as best we can. We are following those guidelines to a T. And I want to thank our cabinet staff. Dr. Breedlove, we didn't get to hear from you tonight. And I know you and your team were so, just invaluable in developing our Plan D for all of our teachers who wanted to apply to teach on Plan D, and all of our families that wanted to apply to keep their students on Plan D. So I want to thank you tonight as well, even though you didn't get to present. But the board is human too. And we are here in person because we are confident in what our team is doing. And I want to thank everyone in the back of this room for your work. And I do want to thank our teachers who are on the front line doing one of the most honorable jobs on this planet. We value our teachers, we respect our teachers, and we would never want to do anything to harm our teachers. And so I'll just end on that, from the board, because the board has been attacked. And I just want to remind everyone that, again, we are human too. we have been affected too, and we have had significant loss. Mr. Benson?
Great words, Madam Chair. Great words. Great words. Dr. Houlihan, as Madam Chair mentioned, as I'm reading those emails, especially from the teachers, one of the things that comes to my mind, is our principals. That comes to my mind because I'm hearing from these teachers. I'm wondering that teacher to principal relationship. It seems as though that they're writing a letter to the board, which is fine. However, in my mind, I'm thinking, how many are really communicating with their principals, and are they writing these memorandas because they're feeling as though they're not getting answers on the principal level, and secondarily, how are our principals doing this time? Because we do talk a lot about the students, we do talk a lot about the teachers, but that principal that's bearing the weight of those schools, how are they? Are they feeling empowered? Or are they feeling helpless? Because I believe Madam Chair addressed it so wonderfully. Could it be that maybe somewhere in that principals group, maybe some of these questions could be answered by those teachers or for those teachers? So kind of, tell me about our principals as it relates, because as I read these emails, the first thing comes to my mind is, are they talking to their principals?
Good question, Mr. Benson, and thank you for that. A few thoughts, if you don't mind. Number one, this is hard work. No matter what you do in the middle of a pandemic, if you're a teacher, if you're an assistant principal, a custodian, or a principal, a bus driver, the amount of time, energy, and hard work that doing school as we know it in the fall and now, it's hard. And I acknowledge that. It is when you go to school to become a teacher, you never think that this is the conditions you're going to be teaching in. And so I acknowledge that. And that's why I'm very, very thankful and appreciative, as all of you are, to our staff and our employees for the work that they're doing. It is hard work. Secondly, in some cases, Mr. Benson, to answer your question, teachers, because they have that right, obviously we want to encourage that freedom of speech and addressing me directly or the board to do so. Whenever I see, and I've asked our staff to do the same thing, that the principal is not copied on those exchanges, we want to make sure the principal is aware so that if it's a local level issue that can be addressed by the principal, they have the chance to do that. So we try to close that feedback loop as well as key staff like Dr. Harris or Mr. McGraw. So it's a complete team effort. I have asked our principals that, any point in time, because we meet with them twice a month. We have a general principals meeting and then a leveled meeting where it's just elementary, just middle, and just high school. And they are doing a tremendous job working with their teachers and their staff to try to address their concerns when they know of their concerns. And if they don't know how to address it, they are not shy to pick up the phone and call one of us and ask for help. And we're happy to help them. I have a principals advisory council also that I meet with on a regular basis. And we have these discussions. And I'm always asking, what can we do to further support you or your team or your teachers? And so that's an ongoing dialogue. Like everyone else, I think we desperately all needed that 2-week winter break to really kind of rejuvenate. I think our principals are excited to be back in the buildings. They're continuing the work from the last semester. And anytime that they raise a concern to me, Dr. Breedlove, or to our staff, we not only will we listen, but where we can take appropriate action or bring recommendations to the board, we certainly will do so.
And let me say, where's that camera at? Is that camera on me? All right. I want to say to the teachers, this is in no way I'm disagreeing with you writing your emails. I just want to make sure you're using every source you have and your principal is there for you. You write your emails because we'll read them, but I don't want you not making sure that that principal knows of those concerns.
Thank you. And while we're on the topic of principals, there was one more thing that we've gotten several times over that that I want to address with principals. We've gotten a lot of parent emails disappointed in the new attendance policy for this semester. And I just want everyone to know they blamed it on the board, but I want to go on the record that this attendance policy was put together by our principals based on the difficulty and the challenges that they had running their schools during the fall semester. So the principals collectively worked together on the attendance policy that is now the administrative guideline for the spring semester. And it would not be responsible of this board to not hear our principals and take their recommendation. If our principals are seeing that students are disengaged and not checking in or not doing their work and staff can't track them down, and a whole host of other issues that our principals had during the fall semester, this is what they recommended and need to operate our 53 schools for the spring semester. And while I understand our students and parents may not agree with this attendance policy, I'm not in a position, I don't think our board is in a position to disagree with our principals. So I wanted to address attendance.
Thank you for that. And just to clarify, our central team put together the recommendation and the policy or the expectations based on the feedback from the principals that we asked them for lessons learned and feedback on this issue to then put forth that guidance. So, and I agree with you. We need to continue to listen to what we need to make sure our schools are run effectively and operationally. And this is one that we feel at the current time is needed. Of course, for families that want flexibility or need assistance, work with your principals, work with Ms. Morris, who knows our attendance policies. We'll work with you on a case-by-case basis. This is really the expectation moving forward for second semester to know that we need you to come to school if you've signed up to come to school for in-person.
Otherwise, schools would just be forced to not promote come in June. So, I mean, this is very, very important. If a principal or a teacher and then ultimately Union County Public Schools is going to promote a student or graduate a student with a Union County Public Schools diploma, we have to ensure that the work has been done. Are there any other questions from the presentations made tonight? If not, we will move forward to board comments for other board members to speak. Okay, don't everyone jump at once. Okay. I'm gonna go back to Mr. Strickland's presentation where he was too shy to share numbers from our child nutrition team. We could not be more proud of our child nutrition employees. They have done the most incredible, remarkable, I would go as far as to say almost miracles that they have performed for our entire county since March 16th. And because I am a numbers person, I'm going to share the numbers. So the numbers that I have from Mr. Strickland is that our child nutrition, along with our SROs, this summer handed out to date from March 16th to January 7th, we have provided over 816,000 meals in Union County. And that does not include over 71,000 snacks in our county. And I just want to remind everyone that when all of this happened back in March and people showed up curbside to get a meal from our child nutrition and our SROs, there were no questions asked. Meals were handed out to our community from the hands of our child nutrition employees. And because of that, I would like to ask Dr. Houlihan and his office to send certificates of appreciation from our board and you to all of our schools for child nutrition on the remarkable, outstanding job that not only that they did for Union County Public Schools, but for our entire county since COVID-19. I would like for certificates of appreciation be sent out because we don't feel comfortable bringing a lot of people into the meeting as we have in the past to award certificates and shake hands and make eye contact with these incredible employees. I do want to ask that we send these awards to our child nutrition employees.
Absolutely agree, and we'll be sure to get that done as soon as possible. I'll work with Mr. Strickland on that. Thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our SROs, there are just so many things that our SROs do for us, including handing out meals to our students. We're so thankful for all of the help that you have given to us since March. Mrs. Heintel?
I echo everything that's been said about teachers and staff. I think that as UCPS, I think we've done our employees have done an amazing job through all of this since March. I mean, it goes from the bus drivers, the teachers, the staff members, the principals, facilities, and maintenance, making sure that everything is running in the school system, to after school, to absolutely everywhere, to finance, because we got to pay the bills. So, and that's important as well. And Shauna's Ms. Glam's whole team has taken the money that we have from the CARES Act and the other things and made it go as far as we possibly can go to make sure that we have the things that we need to make sure we're running this school district, from payroll to everything that's going. And I know I'm missing HR and technology and everything technology is doing for us to make sure that our laptops are working and the networks are working and Microsoft Teams is working. And it's a whole lot of 5,000 employees who've done amazing jobs over the last 10 months. It's amazing. So I thank everybody for what they've done. And I know I've missed somebody. So, and for that, I apologize, but everybody in UCPS.
If there are no other board comments, we will move to announcements from board members.
The Facilities Committee will meet on January 21st at 9 a.m. at the PDC. The Finance Committee will meet on January 26th at 9 a.m. via Zoom. That's so I can get my child to school. Thank you.
On January 21st, we will have our curriculum meeting following the facilities meeting at approximately 10 a.m. here in the PDC.
Madam Chair, policy will meet January 27th at 9 o'clock.
The Strategic Planning, Information Technology, and Transportation Committee meeting is scheduled to meet Wednesday, January 27th 7:30 here at the PDC.
And Mrs. Morris, I did want to ask about appeals. Will Appeals Panel A have any appeals this Thursday on the 14th? There will be appeals. Okay, for Panel A. So all board members who are with me on Appeals A, do you recall what time we need to report for those? 9 a.m. Thank you very much.
Is it in person or still Zoom?
They're in person. Appeals are in person.
This is a Zoom meeting, it
Yeah.
says.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Appeals A was moved to Zoom?
Because I got it on, it said it was going to be Zoom. That's what I'm asking. Are we now in person or is it still Zoom?
On board docs that we can see, it says Zoom.
It does.
Appeals are face-to-face unless the person appealing wants it Zoom. And so in this case, the family must not have wanted to come face-to-face.
Okay. So Thursday will be Zoom per the family. Thank you for that clarification.
No problem.
And Appeals A, I just want you to go ahead and mark your calendar for January 28th to be prepared if we have more appeals on that date as well. Just use a placeholder until we get more information on whether we will or will not have a hearing. Are there any other announcements?
Madam Chair, I just want to thank everybody for their kind comments on our granddaughter.
Congratulations. Okay, if there are no other announcements, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. Price.